Season 11 Worlds is well underway, and with that has been a very kind of rich development of the meta itself, but more specifically in terms of just the vision meta in regards to this. Because as we know, the regular meta often is surrounded through top lane currently. We're having a lot of plays for Rift Herald very early. Usually teams are on time in order to contest the Rift Herald, etc. But I think there is a lot of focus around early deep vision in regards to tracking the enemy junglers. Now, this was kind of said briefly throughout the Riot broadcast and whatnot, talking about deep jungle vision early, especially during level 1 to get vision. But I don't think it's really been explained why. And I think the reason why is because it's way more optimal to be able to track a jungler based upon what camps they have or have not taken, rather than getting, like your traditional river bush ward, right? If you're like a mid laner, top laner, or bot laner. Instead, you get far more information if you actually ward on the enemy jungle camps. And if you're able to do, 2 camps, you basically know that entire jungler's route, especially if, your allied jungler is helping you kind of track and keep tabs on the enemy jungler. And so now we're seeing this vision game of deep vision via the early game, and top laners are doing a lot of deep vision, especially if you're over, say, on like red side, then you can go ahead and ward the blue buff over on top side, right? And so we're seeing this a lot, and then we're seeing mid lane also help a lot in warding the Wraith camp, which is one of the biggest camps in the entire jungle camp, because it gives you like so much XP. And so we're seeing this a lot, and also too with supports roaming to help to get deep vision as well. So it's just all around a deep vision game rather than your traditional ward the river line. Instead, it's going past that line. And I think, as I said, it's because if you're a jungler, you will most likely not gank a particular lane severely unoptimally via pathing through, where his jungle camps aren't already spawned, right? And they've already been taken, right? So like consider the top side jungle for blue team. It's like you aren't going to go up to gank top lane if you don't have any camps over there, because your failure as doing such, if you don't actually land that gank, is very, very severe, because now you don't have jungle camps in order to fall back on to then, go and do your thing and get XP and catch up and whatnot. So it's very severe that, you can understand exactly where a jungler is going to be on the map depending upon what camps that he's already taken. And this is just a way better, more efficient way to track the jungler and know where the jungler is, rather than just, well, he's not in my bush in top lane, right, in the river. That's all that I know. So, and like this whole idea of being able to track the jungler more efficiently, I think was first spawned out about during season 6 when the Riot had introduced the spawn timers for large camps. So it was like dragon, it was blue buff and red buff, and I think Herald was there at the time too. I'm not sure. Maybe that was season 7, but these camps used to not have timers, so you would actually not know as the enemy team if these objectives were up or not until you actually went over and looked at them. But now there's a universal timer to where within 60 seconds it will tell you if the enemy blue buff or red buff are coming up, like as we know it today. And so this helped a little bit in determining a I guess more optimal path of maybe what the enemy jungler is going to do, and you can kind of get a read exactly of what's going on in the fog of war. So overall, there is just less information that you gain from just warding your river bush, and by warding an actual camp, you get more information, not only for you, but you give information for your entire team via warding near camps, because then you can determine his route, which impacts all other lanes, right? And so this in turn actually helps counter jungling, and you're actual jungler being able to counter jungle and whatnot and predict where the enemy jungler is. And it also helps your jungler do counter ganking because he knows that this jungler is not going to do a severely suboptimal path. And so he basically knows where the enemy jungler is and where he's going to gank. And this is, I think, the reason as to why we're seeing more ganks being easily more read. You can see in this current world's meta that we've seen a lot of the times that both enemy junglers will be at the same lane at the same time, roughly. Maybe they'll be a couple seconds apart. And so that means that one jungler has a better read on the other jungler, right? Maybe via better warding and better deep vision, or just by, better intuition or experience. And so this, you can see there is now a gap of just seconds, merely seconds, of determining where a jungler is and where he is not. And so I think this largely has changed the game in terms of how vision actually works. Maybe this will trickle into solo queue play, but I doubt it because this is in large part due to the jungler, on your team being able to help track and keep tabs on the enemy jungler as well, combined with all the wards. And he's able to use this information in order to play more intelligently in terms of his own jungle pathing or exactly where he's going to gank. So I just think this evolution of, the vision meta is actually very significant, and it's something that is very subtle that I don't think a lot of people would initially grasp. It's like, yeah, we notice that teams are more warding on camps rather than, the specific points like bot lane over in the bot tri bush, right next to a dragon, or like the river bush in top lane, right? That's very easy. But this, development of the vision meta is something that's, I think it's really intelligent, and it truly shows that these pros and these analysts are understanding way more nuances about the game, and something that is actually a little bit revolutionary when you think of just the actual mechanics of it and how it plays out in terms of how junglers path and whatnot. And you can even see this reflected in the champion pool, in which these teams are now going deeper and deeper into, in terms of being able to use Jarvan because he can actually hop over walls, or he can get away from certain vision traps. Same thing with Talon. That's a big reason why Talon is actually meta right now, is because it's very hard to track Talon because he can jump over multiple different walls. So you actually don't know where he is really on the map at all times, because he can take what would be considered a suboptimal path traditionally, but he could fucking jump over walls, so it's not suboptimal. So those are the things that I'm seeing in tendencies for this world's meta, and I think it's actually rather impressive that teams and analysts have figured out like this little nuance of tracking junglers via jungle camps rather than specific entry points, common entry points within the actual jungle routes and whatnot, and into river.